זה שיר פשוט, זה שיר קצר, אולי נשמע טיפה מוזר, אבל תדע, כי זו עובדה, שאלוהים אוהב אותך, והוא רואה, והוא שומע.
This is my favorite portion. Hello. I know, right? Everyone says it. But I was honest this last couple times. There's been a couple not my favorite, but I always find such amazing things, again, practically, that we can bring things into our life. Hi, I'm Charlie Brown with the Rooted Cafe. This is such a fun show to do because we're not diving into breaking down all the Hebrew and everything. If that's you, you could stay because we need to sometimes get to a practical level of what the word is saying to us. How do we practically bring it in our lives? Now, I love a good study like anyone, but sometimes you just need to practically know, how am I going to bring this into my life? And I'm going to tell you, maybe some of you have been challenged before in the book of Leviticus, like, how could this possibly be a challenge? Well, I pray that at the end of this, again, you will see, wow, this is challenging. It is a challenge, but this is how I'm going to bring it into my personal life. Let me make sure I said that right. Okay. We are in Acharei Mot and Kedoshim. I love Kedoshim. I love. I have written in my Bible, it's the love chapter. It is my 1 Corinthians 13 of Torah. It is truly the love chapter, and it's about how to love. How do we work through our problems? How do we it seems simple, but it isn't so simple, right? But he does give us some practical guidelines. In just a second, I do have a special guest today, which I'm very excited to tell you guys about, but I'll give you a chance to get in your Bible so you're in the right place. We're in Leviticus 16:1 through 20:27. That's where we're going to be in. But I just want you also to say hello from wherever you are watching from. If you're live with me right now on Facebook, or then please make sure you say hello. We can say hello back to you. Hi, Darlene. Good morning. Miss you already. We have, if you're wherever you're from, tell us where you're watching from. If you're watching from YouTube later, please leave in the comments. It really does matter. It makes a big deal. So, hi, Kara. Nice to have you on here. Great. Okay, so again, before I bring on my special guest, I want to remind everyone that the She Prays Conference, phenomenal conference, the teachings are still available on the website. It's therootedcafe.com. You can click up at the store and resources. Please grab the free stuff in there, but you can go down and see that those videos are still available. We had world-renowned teachers sharing their heart and their wisdom on prayer. And yes, prayer changes things. But most importantly, prayer changes you. And it was amazing. I was just blown away by this conference. And I want you make sure, take a minute to check out therootedcafe.com. It is, I mean, I am a little bit partial to this, but it's this all-in-one personal and a community discipleship platform, okay? You can do everything in one place. You get to meet people. You get to grow in your knowledge of his word. You get to grow in your ability to bring that into your home, connecting with other mamas just like you, especially if you're homeschoolers, learning from other homeschooling moms. We have a thriving homeschool community. Connect with sisters just like you if you're working outside the home, or maybe you are retired and you're just trying to do all the things. You're going to find women just like you. We help challenge you and love on you, and you'll learn to live at your own pace, or you can do it live from the most anointed, gifted, I'm going to brag, most respected women walking in their life in Yeshua. We feature things like the A&E perspective. That's Ancient Near East perspective. So that if you want to dive in deep, we've got all that. We've got Dr. Dina Dye talking about the temple revealed. And I won't bore you. How to study the Bible. We get in that for you. Shalom in the home with my guest today. You're going to meet. We have discipleship from beginner to asking the hard questions. Learning the Hebrew alphabet at your pace. It'll be blown away at how it will change your study. And body, soul, and character building for you and your children. I just want to say it's a safe place for you to ask questions. no matter what level you're at. You guys, we are impacting generation. We have women from all walks of life respecting and connecting on what matters, not disagreeing. You guys, we have live teachings on so many topics every single week, and this like giant library of over 700 hours that you can tap into. So we have this great offer that's on there. Jump in there. Your first month, it's 50% off. You can decide if it's a good fit or not. Sometimes, and we don't hold you hostage. You can leave whenever you want. It's all access when you jump in. I promise you, your access to this and the women is so worth it. But the most important thing is that we have this thriving community. It's thriving of women working together in their faith to build their families and their marriage and their life in Messiah. Yes, Misty, it's the best group of women ever. And I am blessed to have one of those women with me. I'm going to bring her on with you guys. Miriam Stallsworth. We call her Ima. We have adopted her as our mama. I am going to, let's get you unmuted. There we go. You're unmuted. Welcome. Everyone knows you, but hey,
Well, that is an honor. Everyone knows me. Is it because of my age? I hope not, but
no, no, gosh. Oh my gosh.
well, that's okay too. That's okay too, because I'm proud to be a woman that is like from Titus 2, right?
Yes.
And teaching the younger. And you said it. It's all about practicality. I am about practicality. And when I go into these Torah portions, I say, where am I in this? Because if it's not about my neighbor, it's not about somebody else. How am I like this, and how can I better myself? And I will tell you, dear daughter, boy, this last parasha was about the tongue, and this one also, the holiness. Oh my gosh, it just really hits you in the heart.
Yes.
And so I am delighted to share this time with you.
This is exciting. This is really
Mm.
cool. We have in this section we started at we it starts out Adonai, he speaks to Moshe. Remember, this is red letter again. We talked about last week. Many of you might have a red letter edition when Yeshua or Jesus is speaking in your Bible, and it's in red letter. Well, these should be red letter. This is
Mhm.
the Holy One is speaking to Moshe, to Moses, and saying, he's telling him at the very beginning, he starts out and he says, and Adonai spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons. I mean, he brings that back in case you
Right.
forgot. After the two sons, he reminds of them what happened, reminded them, oh yeah, we have to do things in a certain way, in not in our own timing. And then he goes right into Yom Kippur, right?
Right, a certain protocol. And what I loved about this, of course, we see the high priest, and he was the one selected. And I was reading, it is a book, The Light from Zion, and it's about many commentaries from many different rabbis that I was blessed and given by Rabbi Moshe Goldsmith and his wife Leah. But one of the commentaries shared right at the beginning, it says in Leviticus 16:17, and there will be no man in the tent of meeting where he goes in to make atonement in the sacred place. Now, as I was reading many commentaries, it always said they would fight over, even all these priests who could get the jobs of trimming the wicks and doing these things. They were so eager. But the high priest could say, wow, look at me. I'm the one in here for all of Israel. I'm all here for all of you. He could take that high road and be very, very lacking humility.
Mm.
Very scary that he was
I,
in
I
there.
just laughing, Miriam, is that can you imagine everyone in our ministries? Because I know you're at Betami, you're the
Yeah.
founder and leader, you and Charles, may his memory be forever a blessing. I know it will.
Yes.
And that you are, if they were fighting over who was going to do the work,
Yeah. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I'll clean the toilets
I'll
today. I'll
do it.
take out the
I'll do
trash.
it. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that's hysterical.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. But anyway, it was saying that there was no man because he couldn't show off. It was no one else in there. And it's also saying also, if you're a little shy or if you get nervous when you're talking about when you're up there and you see all the people, just react like there's nobody else there. And just for that time, and it's just you doing it. But I thought there was kind of a neat um just a little commentary saying there was no man in there but him, and boy, he had to
Mm.
do quite a bit. And you know, washing and then not washing and taking off these linen garments and putting on that. And I don't know if you've ever heard this, but in the years that we ministered, Charlie, a lot of people say, why do you need to do Yom Kippur? You already have a Messiah. He paid for us. Why are you doing this? Why are you going through Yom Kippur? Have you heard that before?
I have, and it's interesting. I wrote that earlier. It says he tells us this is for the native born and the outsider, and a statute forever. Now,
Forever.
do you think that he would have put statute forever and say, and it'll be a statute until I replace it?
Right, right, right. No, that is not it at all. And what it's saying is for each holy day, we're taking a special quality of the Messiah. And it was saying, of course, we can ask forgiveness anytime, any day. We can
That's the
repent.
best part. We don't have to worry
Right.
about goats and the bulls. That's
No.
the law of sin and death, is that the killing the animals, and that you have to
Right.
die because you sinned.
Right, right. But here it's saving, just like in Passover. We really look in to that hametz, that lack of humility. This is looking into, okay, this is a time we really clean up, and we're given this time for the whole house of Israel. And it says, and for the sojourner who
Yep.
dwells among you. And like Charlie said, it is a perpetual forever, not just for a
Yeah.
little while, forever. So when people say that to you, why are you doing this? Plus, we stand with Israel, don't we? Today
Mhm.
is it's its birthday, Israel's Independence Day, and they're celebrating. We align with Israel. And so
Amen.
and so
Amen.
we're gonna do that. We're gonna do
Amen.
that.
Amen. And they go through the process here of the scapegoat.
Oh,
Um,
wow, yes.
I love, you look in verse 22, the goal will carry the goat will carry, it's going to be a day,
Yeah.
will carry all the iniquities on itself for the people. And I instantly thought of, and y'all check me, but this is what came to my vision, like what came to my mind, that the goat would carry the iniquities of all of us. And we see
Mm.
later that the chastisement for our sin was upon him, and by his stripes we're healed. The
Yes,
chastisement for our iniquities was upon him.
yes.
He that Jesus, Yeshua, carried the goat. He was the goat, right? He
He was
was that
that
sac.
scape, yes,
Yes,
that was sent over the cliff, yes.
yes. And I was thinking of, what flashed before my face was when Abraham took Isaac, and it said he looked up and he saw the goat he saw the caught in the
Mm,
thicket. It was
mm,
caught in the thicket. And
yes,
I believe that, he was on the top of the mountain. He looked up.
right.
What's up? I believe that he saw into the next realm, and he saw
Mm,
Yeshua. I believe he
mhm,
saw Yeshua as
mhm,
the lamb slain before the foundation of the earth.
mhm.
And I believe that even here he's seeing, this is that form. It's like, this is going to take on, that goat took it instead of having to have to sacrifice his son.
Yes, and isn't it wonderful? We have all heard that word for years, scapegoat, and this is
Hmm.
where that word came from. If
Hmm.
somebody being a scapegoat, but
Hmm.
he was our scapegoat. He was the one. And look at about the person that had to go and throw him over also. It's very interesting. The symbolism and everything is so amazing, isn't it, Charlie?
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, about the priest 5 times had to go and change his clothes and go from the plain white linen just to be humble. And then he put on the high priest and all these different things and the protocol. It's so accurate, but it's so incredible. But we know we have that high priest and we know who that scapegoat is. So it even takes it to a higher level.
It sure does. I read a book, and I don't know if I love Francine Rivers. I'm actually re-listening to the Mark of the Lion series. It's my favorite. It's been probably, I don't, gosh, 20 years since I've listened to or read it. I'm actually listening to it before I go to bed now. But she wrote a book called The Last Sin Eater, and they did do a movie about it. You could find the movie and watch it, but it's not going to be the same. But The Last Sin Eater, and it was so good talking about a scapegoat and going into that. Um,
I've never
love
heard of
that.
this. I'm
Yeah,
going to
very
have
good.
to.
It's a great little movie. It is a good little movie, but I'm just saying the book, of course, is always way better. But Francine Rivers, The Last Sin Eater. One of the things that popped out to me again this year was in verse 23. again, we're in 16, Leviticus 16, in verse 23. It says, "Then Aaron is to come into the tent of meeting, take off the linen garments that he put on when he went out into the holy place, and leave them there."
Yes.
That popped off the page because I instantly
Mm.
thought of Yeshua left his garments.
Oh, that's good, Charlie.
When
Yeah.
he went into the holy, he went to the holy of holies.
Right.
And when he came back, he left his garments in the tomb.
Mm. That is so good.
And that
Yes.
just popped off to me. So one of those cool little things that just kind of jumps in. But but jumping into Yom Kippur, there's a lot we take on,
Mhm.
as we talk about this a lot, as far as what is tradition
Mhm.
and rituals that are
Mhm.
we've put into play, which are not
Mhm.
bad. Our friend Crystal, I love, she says, like, they beautify the Torah. It's a way of us beautifying things, no
Right.
different than maybe some other holidays that you've
Right.
celebrated in your culture, that you did traditions that
Right.
help beautify that time. So we're going to kind of, if you'll help me hit some of those today, as far as Yom Kippur, the things that are not ritual, that are not tradition, are you're to do no work on that day.
Right.
So everyone, you have plenty of time to mark the date on your calendar.
Right.
You have plenty of time to get the day off.
Right.
Uh, yeah, you have
You
time.
And it says, there's been different people to say different things. When it says afflict your soul, that is not optional either. But there's different things, of course, that they have added. But for most of us, we do fast
Hmm.
because now there's some people that say, well, um, you can afflict your soul in other ways. And they've taken, the scripture to make that out. That is up to you.
Hmm.
I think one great thing my husband did was on that day, a few days before, he gave money to somebody that in one office or secretary, doctor's office, and he said, I cannot eat on this day. And he said, and so I'm giving you what I would spend to have eaten for this meal or this day. And I thought that's very good, even.
That's very cool. And I struggled with this past years, because it nowhere does it say to fast this day. So I
Right,
know that
right,
people will struggle with this, but a lot of us choose to fast this day because,
right.
girl, let me tell you, if you want to afflict this soul, just don't let me have some food for a little while.
Exactly. And then they do no food or drink,
Right. So, but
and
please don't add, if that's
right.
something you're going to hear, especially if you're new, you're going to hear people saying, "Oh, you're not supposed to drink, you're not supposed to eat."
You're not
Can I
supposed
just
to brush your teeth, and oh
oh,
my gosh, when you're there all
people are
day,
freaking out. Well, I have medicine to take. What am I going to
yes,
do? Can I
and you're
just
to
say,
take your medicine.
yes,
Yes.
ask him, "Father, what does it mean to
Yes.
me to afflict my soul?"
Right. Or if you're
Some of you, just
diabetic.
staying off social media for a day is going to afflict your soul.
Right, 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 right. And then like there's certain other things that people hear. And so some people were white. And is that's more of a traditional thing, but it was like the angels or purity, or that they wore white. Some people, it says that they don't have relations, or some don't bathe or put on deodorant. They say all these things um, because you're not supposed to really be pampering yourself on that day.
Yeah, and
It's
the
your to
bottom line is,
afflict.
the bottom line is, everyone, can I just say, for Yom Kippur, you're not to do any kind of work, which
Any
means,
kind of
or
work.
cause someone else to work.
Right,
Okay.
right,
And when we say we don't participate in commerce, like on our Shabbat, it's that we don't want to cause someone else to have to work,
right,
because so so no work. That's like the thing. No work, and afflict your soul. Doesn't mean you go beating your flesh. I'm afflicting
right.
my
And
soul.
some do. And
Mm,
and it's
there's a
real.
lot. You're going to hear a lot,
You're gonna hear a
people.
lot of craziness. Some don't wear leather shoes because they say that's work lifting up your foot. I mean,
It gets it
it
gets
gets
crazy.
crazy. Those
Yeah.
are all fences, and those are all things that are added. And I can wear white. I can wear flip-flops. I can do all those things. But if my heart's not right, it might look great on the outside. That's it. My heart.
That's it. That is afflicting your soul, is getting that deep. What is my neshama? What is this deep, or what is that deep thing inside of me that has to come forth? Getting rid of my flesh, afflicting my flesh, and my own emotions, my own things, putting all that aside and circumcising that all off of me so that my heart
Is
is willing.
pure.
It's all about your heart. So
It's all about
the
your heart.
best.
The word heart is the second most lev word I think that is used in the Tanakh.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's so important. And
Mhm.
another thing, okay, God can, when we ask repentance for sins we've committed against him, that is forgiven. But if it's against your fellow man, man to man, woman to woman, then you are responsible to go to them. And you might even say, well, I don't think I've done anything, but they have maybe had that perspective. And so it's worth it to humble yourself.
Amen. It will be note for those of you who are like, oh, I better ask for the days off. I better make sure I mark it off on my calendar. It's sundown on the 24th of September till sundown on the 25th of September.
Yes,
We,
yes,
I know Miriam and I are in the same calendar. We do the Hillel calendar. We
right,
align with Israel.
right.
You'll know that in the Ruta Cafe, we sell, we honor all of you. It's not a topic that we argue about. Just know that that's
No,
our stance. It's not because we have this is what it is. It's because we're just aligning with Israel, and that's what we've chosen to do. So when Israel celebrates Yom Kippur, guess what? We're celebrating Yom Kippur. So you may hear other people doing it at different times.
right,
Like with any religion, there's going to be factions and there's going
right,
to be differences. It's all okay as long as we agree on the main points. And the main points
right,
are you honoring? Are you honoring? And I
right.
believe he sees your heart in that.
Yes, and on that calendar, I remember when I was in the school system, I could show my principal, this is right on the calendar here.
Mm,
This is a day that I have to take off. And so if you're aligning with Israel, Israel knows the calendar isn't perfect. They
hmm
already know it.
hmm
And so you might think I've got a better way or whatever, whatever. You have to align yourself also with your community, what your community does, and go along with what they
That's
do.
good. That's good.
Mhm,
I love that. The lining
mhm.
because many of us have different communities. I know the community here has a different calendar, but there's such a thriving community and they don't push that on anyone and it's beautiful. There was something that we talked about that comes in here. We jump into like 17. Is there anything else you have about Yom Kippur you want to talk about?
No, I think we've covered the most important.
Yeah, yeah. Again, we're back to it will be an everlasting statute for you to make
Yes.
atonement for Israel once in the year because of their sins. So this is a time. So I do want to ask this. Let's keep it practical. What does Yom Kippur look for like for Miriam Stallsworth?
Well, for Miriam Stallsworth, and I've done it for many years, but I think it's gotten deeper and deeper for me. Um, I think going when we go to services and we hear the list of sins, and it's amazing things that maybe you didn't think or I didn't think I was guilty of. And then I think it's taking um, a magnifying glass and looking a mirror. It's really looking at Miriam and saying, what do I really need to work? Or, sometimes your very family, or it could have been my husband or whatever, I really felt I had to ask forgiveness for. And so
Mm,
I think it's a very humbling time. Yes, I do fast. And most of the time, if we're going to services at our congregation, we might be stopped eating early. And so I'm not a stickler that you have to wait 25 hours, or if you have kids, you do it when you are through and you are through repenting, and then you're rejoicing
mm.
because the gates are closed. We start a new year, a new time, and praise God for our Messiah. So I see
Amen.
it as just like in the Haroset and the Maror. It's a time of sadness, and then there's a time of great rejoicing because it's like you feel really clean after. I don't know how you feel, Charlie, but I feel like I'm really clean. And I think, if I must say so, I think the hardest thing is with me is the tongue, to really be careful that I don't say anything about negativity, about anybody, or if I have any way that I need to talk to someone, I go to them.
Mhm.
So,
And we're going to get to go into that because we're going to talk about what does love look like,
right,
and it can not look like everything else. And I think that's the challenge we have. I challenge all of you. I do have a quick little what I'll say for my Yom Kippur. It looks like I don't have anyone around here if I'm home. It looks like we are not working.
right,
We fast, not always the whole 24 hours.
right,
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. We will
right,
fast for the majority of the day. We
right.
do drink water. I don't fast water. To me, that was just it's a tradition. I'm not. We have water. We I like to end my Yom Kippur with a bath. And it's
Mm,
almost like my own, it's not, I won't say it's a mikvah because people are going to get all technical with me, but for me, it's like starting fresh.
mhm,
I'm burying myself before him and I'm saying,
mhm.
I just want it all washed away. And
All
it's just,
washed away.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then it's just a private thing. I know people who take like a private little mikvah, they do a little bath before they start Yom Kippur. I mean, really, it's how do you beautify the day for you? How do you make it special? But for me, I'll say that we usually stay home. It's very it's like somber, meaning it's just a time of reflection, journaling, asking the Father to reveal things that might have been hidden
mhm.
that we need to work on. So that the whole point is, we don't want to bring that into the next year. A
Right,
lot of people will do January, December 31st, and they're like New Year's resolutions. Well, this is a time about your soul. This is, Father, what are the things that
right,
are keeping me from being face to face with
right,
you?
right.
How am I treating others, or what am I doing
How
that's
am I gonna
keeping
have
me
a
from
deeper
missing the
walk
mark?
with you? Yes.
Yes. And it's one day.
One day, that's
One
all.
day out of 365. He lets you have
Right,
all the other ones,
right,
And he's saying, I
right,
want this one day for you to afflict and not to be about you. Can it
right,
just be? I mean, the Shabbat is about you. It's your
right,
rest.
right.
The Yom Kippur is about your alignment and afflicting your soul and getting in alignment with Him. So, anyways, if I would love for people to share, tell me what your Yom Kippur looks like. How do you uh, honor the day? How do you honor this perpetual day that has been commanded by the Creator of the universe? So
Mhm,
we jump
mhm,
into chapter 18. Let's hop in there. Chapter 18. My big thing is on this one is how do you look different from everyone else, right?
mhm.
And he says, Adonai said to Moses, speak to Bnei Israel and say to them, I am Adonai your God. You're not to act as they do in the land of Egypt, where you used to live. Okay, I'll come back. You are Nor are you to act as they do in the land of Canaan, where I'm bringing you, nor are you to walk in their customs. Hey, I don't want you to act like you used to act where you came from, but I
Right.
want you to be careful because I'm sending you to a place and that
Well,
you're
there's
not to
gonna
act
be
like them
that.
either.
Yeah,
You're not going to take on the new things that you see. Can I
right.
just say I don't want to act like how I used to act when I was a child. When I was a child, I act like a crazy fool. There's things that I took on and I acted like the people then. But you know what? I how does this apply to me, Miriam? This week today, I felt him saying, "I'm going to send you into religious groups of people who have every great intention, who I don't want you to take on what they're doing either."
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
it might not be what I'm calling you to do. I'm not this is they've taken on a bunch of extra stuff. They've called fences, they've done a lot of things, and we've said some things, and this isn't out of judgment. This is just saying it doesn't necessarily mean as you're going into the land that he's promised you, there's going to be people in the land he's promised you, in the callings he's promised you, in the new areas that he's sending into you all around. He's saying, not only do I don't want you to act how they acted where I brought you out of, but I want you to be careful not to act like those or take on the customs of the people that I've sent you to.
And I think the balance is how do you do it and be a set apart people? Because there are people that are going to be upset
Mm-hmm.
and they think, "Oh, look at that," thinks that she's better than all of us. And you sometimes get that. So there's a balance that you have to decide what you're going to do or how you're going to act. But, you know, don't be surprised when it says you're a set apart people. Don't do what others do. So there, and you are going to be rejected. But
Mhm.
like Charlie said, we both don't buy and sell. I get, if I have to get gas and everything for my car, I get that on Friday or before. Now, if it's an emergency and you need to get medicine or life, the
It's the
keeping of
ox in the
life,
ditch. If your
it's the
ox falls
ox,
in the
right,
ditch, you get it out. If you got
right,
something happens, you take care of it. I mean,
right.
again,
But
it's
it
about your
said
heart.
it's about your heart. But if it said you're a set apart people and you were chosen as an example, and it is a relationship, not a religion, but you have to make those decisions.
Mhm.
And for myself and for my household, from Friday night, and I can't wait to do Shabbat and have it be glorious and have people over. And until close, close to sundown, when we start to do Havdalah, that is a set apart time. And you will have people that say, why can't you do this? And I think, and that's what I'm going to talk about in my show tonight, the boundaries in shalom in the home, because it's the hardest with your family.
It sure is. It's
It's the
very hard with your
hardest.
family, and you have to do it out of a good heart and not coming at them.
Right.
Well, no, 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 no. This is what we do instead. And I want to give the example, and I'm sitting here praying for the right words, but and I'm getting the same picture I have shared before. God didn't choose to have them annihilate Egypt and stay in this beautiful river country. It was beautiful. It was opulent.
Right.
He could have just annihilated them, and that's where he chose to birth his nation and just leave them there
Mhm.
and let them be
Mhm.
bountiful right there. He
Right.
also didn't take them over into Mesopotamia. He also didn't take them over into where Babylon is on the
Right.
other side of the desert and have them annihilate all the Babylonians and just knock all them out and take all that beautiful lush area out,
Mhm.
because great empires would go there. That would make sense. But instead, he put them on this little strip of land that was right in the middle. And
Mhm.
the thing that make the why, Lord, he may change today. My understanding of why he did that today is it's right in the middle of trading routes. People from those Babylon, all those great nations would come through Turkey, come through. People coming in from all the other areas all around the Mediterranean. People coming up from Egypt. They would come through to trade because it's the trading port where trading routes would go through. And what would happen is they would meet these people who they wouldn't trade on Shabbat. They were
Mhm.
treating their widows and orphans differently than other people.
Mhm.
They were not they were doing all these things, and there was life in them that was not like it. They looked different, they acted different, they dressed different, they ate different. It set them apart so much that it caused those people to go, what is this? And they would bring it back to their nations, and it spread the gospel to the world.
Right, and they didn't do it begrudgingly, they were joyful about it,
Yes.
and that's an example for us also. When we do these things, we do it to elevate and be joyful and for people to ask us, "Why are you doing this?"
Hmm.
And it
Hmm.
it's so incredible, it's so wonderful, but if you don't think you're gonna be tested, you will be tested in these areas, and I know there are many people that I know didn't take jobs because they dangled a great salary to them and they needed it, but they were going to have to work on Saturday. And they said, no, I can't do that. And so you will be tested, or you'll be tested in other areas that people will ask you, or your family member will ask you. And the hardest is the ones because if you weren't in this from the very beginning,
Oh yeah.
they'll say, "Well, you didn't
You're in a
do the
cult.
store." Yeah, "What are you doing?" And I think one of the saddest things is that when people start coming and doing this, um, they sometimes say their relatives will say, "So, you're becoming a Jew now?" And when they say that from someone who has Jewish heritage, that hurts.
Hmm.
That hurts. So I try to be the very best because they have, an idea, don't they? They have
Hmm.
a filter. Oh, all Jewish people, they're stingy. Where did that come from? Or
And they're
don't you,
not, Miriam, we're
know,
not doing a Jewish calendar. We're not doing
right.
Jewish laws. We're doing God's calendar. It's like,
God's
no, I'm
calendar.
actually following God's calendar. I'm following his ordinance.
Right.
Because in verse 5, he says, to those who do this, it says they will live by them. The one who does them will live by them. And that's another verse that popped off the page this year to me. And I was like,
What
what?
verse is that?
Verse 5. So it's in where are we at? In 8 I think 18:5, 18 verse. So you're to keep my ordinance.
My judgments.
The one who does them will live by them. I am Adonai. And I was like, well, that of course they'll live by them. If they're doing them, they'll live by them. It sounded
Right.
redundant to me,
Right.
but I had to sit in it for a minute. And that's not what he's saying. He's saying the ones who do these, the ones who remember Shema, Asa,
Yes.
Shamar, the ones
Yes.
who hear it, they actually do it, they walk it out. It says the ones who do this, it will bring life to
Life.
them. It
Right.
will They will live because of these. He
Right.
tells us, I set before you life and death.
Yeah.
Choose
Choose
life.
life. Right.
He's doing the
Right.
same thing. I'm telling you, if you do this, I will bring life. Many of us who are operating in and we align, the more you align with his calendar, his Shabbats, it is crazy God math. You know this even with giving and tithing. It's crazy God math. It
Right.
is so crazy the way that your time just multiplies, the way that
Yes.
your productivity multiplies, the way your rest, the way your it's crazy. Even now they're saying how important it is for people to take time off and rest. How
They live
really
longer.
they live
Right.
longer. Really? Okay, we've
Right.
already known this. He's saying the one who does this, it's going to bring in the Hebrew would be like it's going to bring the breath to them.
Right. Right. Isn't that beautiful? Yes.
Oh, the
Yes.
one who does these things, it will
Yes.
bring breath to them. Can
Right.
you imagine every year you're getting rid of those things that are holding you back, those sins, those chains that bind you, the
Mhm.
the things that are causing you to miss the mark, all those things you're getting rid of that. That brings breath into you.
Right. Right.
Oh,
And it's so much, I think last Torah portion that was a lot on the clean and the unclean, and that's just about our lives.
yeah.
Holy from the profane.
Yeah.
No, I'm
What's
not
set
going to do
apart?
that.
Yeah.
We're set apart, and I'm sorry. And if people see it as being holier than thou, it's not about wearing uh, your dress, or you're having turtlenecks up to here and having your skirts down, or dress a certain way. That's not what makes you holy. And in this Torah portion, Kiddushin, which means you are holy, for I am holy. You are set apart.
Mhm.
And like we've said, it is not Jewish, it's God's.
It's God's. Yeah, and I was talking to my friend Darlene who's listening right now. We were listening to a pastor doing something. It was interesting that they were pulling these concepts from the Old Testament, from different parts of the Torah or from the prophets, and they were pulling things out of the full Tanakh. Okay, that's all of those,
Hmm.
including even the writings, pulling
Yes.
things out, and they were making it so powerful in their sermon. And I was like, that's really interesting that those things you're pulling out are so powerful, yet you're leaving the other parts behind. But anyways, I digress. I'm going to jump in because I really want to get to this Kedoshim in chapter 19.
Okay.
I don't want to skim past this though, Miriam. I feel like I have to say it. Most people are going to try to get past this, but we talk about these people are spending a lot of time with each other in close proximity. They address in this section the issue of incest.
Yes.
And I just want to just say
Uncovering the
this.
nakedness.
Yes.
Yes.
And I want to say, can you read through this and think of in your mind, the Holy One is protecting reproduction. He's protecting. Remember, we talked about what is, clean and unclean. We talked tameh and tahor. What is
Right.
operating in its intended purpose? What is not, or what is if it's tameh, it's not that it's dirty, it's that it's not operating in its intended purpose, and it needs to have light shed on it, and it needs to move into that light. Okay, so we're addressing women in their nida. We
Hmm.
address even sacrificing children. I want
Yes.
look at the
Molech.
theme here.
Yes.
There's
Which,
there's
yes.
bestiality, and then it
Yes.
addresses homosexuality. I don't
Yes.
want you to think that I'm tiptoeing over this, so I'm going to just say this. This is
Right.
one, it's saying all these things. This is what was happening in the other cultures.
Yes.
And no one wants to go here when they're talking about this. And we try to tiptoe and go, oh, we'll just talk about the other stuff. But I'm just going to say, first of all, I am so thankful that none of these issues are something I personally struggle with, because I have my own struggles that I'm so glad this isn't one of them. So I have grace and love for those that may struggle in these areas. Okay. All the list that's here. Okay. Know that. But this is a situation, it's saying this is tameh because it can't operate in its intended purpose. It can't be fruitful. I want you to think about reproduction and the purity of a generations, about bringing on, and I'll explain it, that you can't be fruitful, you can't multiply, you're not intended in your intended purpose. It's interesting that the word for male, when it says a male shall not lay with another male the way he lays with a woman, the word is interesting because the word for the male is zakar. Hebrews 21:45. So if you guys want to do the study, and if you look that word up, it says, he whom the memorial of his parents is continued.
Mm.
This is the represent, it's just not a man because he's a biologically a male. It's about the reason that the man to not lay with a man like a woman is because he's intended to bring on the memorial of his parents and continue the generational memory. It's about lineage and generations.
Right.
Laying with another man
Cannot
doesn't
do that.
perpetuate that generation.
No.
It stops. It's
No.
not operating in its intended
Or
function.
two women.
Right. So the root, if you get to the root, it's zakar, which it's the same word, but it's just a little different as far as the letters. And it's H2142. It's about bringing to mind. We know it's to remember. Many of us know that, but it's interesting. The root of that word for male there is to remember. It stops the remembrance, the lineage of your parents.
Mm. Mm.
And that is what's the abomination. It
Mm.
is to'eba. It's to make impure or the abomination. And I want you to spend some time for my studiers to get in there. The root of it is a tav. That word is tav, ayin, and bait is the root. Ta'ab. Tav, ayin, bait. Tav
Mm.
is the truth, right? This
Mm-hmm.
it's this final goal in mind. It's the truth. It's the last letter of the alphabet, but it's the sign, the mark of your perception of the sight of the house.
Mm-hmm. Of the
So
house,
of
bait
the house. So
house.
you have this abomination. If you see this word picture, he's saying it's an abomination. We
Mm-hmm.
have our English understanding of that word. What he's saying is it is not the truth of this perception of what I've intended for the home, what I've
Mm-hmm.
intended for the perpetuation of generations, so that I keep you looking different than everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that helps anyone, but I just felt like I didn't want to be like, oh, we're not going to talk about that part. Let's move on to the fun love part.
No, no, because that does set us apart also because people will just say, they're so loving to everybody. We're not saying that we don't love the person. We're just saying we hate the sin.
Well, I'm really careful, I
And
agree with
even
you on
doing
that,
that,
but
yeah,
you love me, but you hate my sin.
right,
Because I have some sin too that's not super
right,
pretty and it's
and
not
right,
operating in my function. So we're not saying this is I hate that most,
right,
especially churches, we're saying this is the sin, like it's the unpardonable
right.
sin.
Because
Absolutely
they
not.
don't have it. Because if
Right,
they don't
right,
have it, this isn't a problem to them and
right.
they look at it as the worst. But when you look sometimes in Romans and it says then they were led from a depraved mind, guess what? To gossips. Oh,
Yes.
ho, ho, ho.
And we're going to jump into that, right? We go into Kedoshim. It's all about how to love. Most of us forget, oh, wait a minute, because gossip, we think gossip and slander was one of the reasons for the leprosy,
Right.
right?
That
And
was yes, that was last tour. Yes, yes.
yeah,
The
so
Lashon Hara. So, when you don't have a problem with something, then you take it upon, well, I don't do that. Look at me. Well, goody goody for you, because we have other stuff.
yeah, like do you really want, let's hope that's what Yom Kippur is about.
Right,
So
right.
if you think all those things, if you're spending time that one day a year, he will let you know. You won't be saying goody goody because he will say,
Yeah,
listen, listen, and show
yes.
you looky looky is what he's
Look.
going to be saying. Looky looky. Uh, verse
Oh
9,
gosh.
I love Kedoshim, chapter 19, because I do believe it. The whole chapter is the love chapter. It is the First
It
Corinthians of the
is.
Old
Oh,
Testament. It's
wow.
how to love. And I've shared this, and I share it every year, and anytime I can. But in 19:9 is something that I struggled with when I asked the Father. It says, "Leave the corners of your field open." Right? It says,
Mhm.
"When you reap the harvest of your land, you're to reap to the very to re- not to reap to the very corners of your field, nor are you to gather the gleanings to your harvest. You're to not to pick the remnants to your vineyard, nor are you to gather the fallen grapes of your vineyard. Instead, you're to leave them on the for the poor and for the outsider. Cider. I am Adonai your God." So I was like, okay, what does that have to do with me? I don't have a grove. I don't have a vineyard. I don't have a farm. So next, let's go to the next thing. Let me find something that applies to me. And he was like, no, 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 go back. I said, well, Father, I have no field to leave the corners open for. And he was like, how about your calendar? How about your wallet? How about your bank account? How about your energy? Are you leaving space to bless others who are less fortunate than you? If someone called up and said, I need your help, are you going to be like, I'm too busy?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
if you say to me, if someone calls me back, I know you're busy, I try not to be defensive because it's not defensive. You know that I'm filtering that through Leviticus 19:9. Oh, I'm not too busy. No, no, no. I got plenty of time. I've got edges. I've got field edges. I want you to look at your calendar. Are you pushed to the max and you couldn't even stop to help someone because you're so busy? Are you pushed to the max that you can't even be sensitive because you're so stressed? I'm talking to myself that I'm too stressed to even leave a fragment of my empathy, of my love, of joy or anything. Am I spending? Do I don't even have any extra money if someone needed something extra that I couldn't help because I've spent to the edges? And I just remember this is red letter. And this is one of the ways we love people. We love people by leaving the edges open. How
Mhm.
about our opinions? Like we were talking about
Mhm.
homosexuality or some other sin, something else you don't
Mhm.
struggle with. Are you leaving the edges of your field open so that you can love the unlovely?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
anybody can love the lovely. Remember, we're told that. But
Exactly.
what makes you kedoshim, set apart and different, is you love the people no one else is loving, the way
Right.
that Jesus, Yeshua,
Right.
did.
So let's look at when I make the bread on Friday. That is a traditional thing, but they take a little bit of the dough, a little bit, and they burn it. It's a like a burnt off, but
And
they
that's called
say
the challah. That is the
right.
challah.
That is the challah. And because lechem is bread, Beth Lechem, house of bread, but they use that word now challah, don't they, for the lechem on Shabbat. But you take that little, and that is saying, okay, as I take this out and I do a blessing, it's making the whole dough holy. So when you have 6 days, you can do whatever that you believe you need to do, but the seventh is set apart. And when you do that, and it also says on Friday night, the woman sets aside the tithe, or whenever you do that. And so when you are setting apart the first of your finances, the first of your time, it's amazing. You think you can waste time? God will show you. I'll give you ways to waste time.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so this is putting, like saying here with those fields, leaving that part. This was in the book of Ruth, wasn't it? This is with
Yes.
Ruth and
Yes.
Boaz. And
Hmm.
he says, no, don't glean, come to my fields. And so,
Yes.
like you said, most of us aren't farmers now, or we don't, or when we had the first fruits, and we don't have that. But
Mm-mm.
we can understand it, like you said, with our money, our time, because you know what? I can't say enough because of my husband, is that he was older and he wasn't completely well, but no idea that he was going to pass away when he did. And so I have so many people say, "Oh, I'll do it next year," or "I'll do that with you." And then there is no next year.
Mhm.
And so that might be putting a little bit of guilt on people,
Mhm.
but yet,
That's very Jewish of you, Miriam. Jewish
I
mama.
know.
She's being,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that you brought that up because I know, again, Darlene and I had watched some teachings, and one of the things was talking about good stewardship. And I think this is about stewardship as well. And one of the things that hit me was he said, you can't be on time for 10 people. You'll never
Mhm.
be on time for 10,000.
Right.
And are
Exactly.
you faithful with the little things? Are you
Are
faithful
you
with leaving
faithful?
that time open? Are you faithful with giving in the beginning? Are you faithful with giving when you're not sure if you're going to get more? That's the first
Right.
fruit. I don't know if more is coming, but I'm going to
Right.
give you what's first.
And you will be tested at that too, won't you, Charlie?
Absolutely. I can't.
Yes.
You want a brand new car, and your car, if I went out right now, your car's filthy.
Right.
Because you cannot be trusted with something big, because he wants to you start cleaning up that car and start thanking him for
Mhm.
the provision for a new one.
Mhm.
He'll say, "Oh, I can trust him. I can trust her because look what she does."
Right.
Your
Right.
home, you're wanting bigger and better, and he's like, "I need you just to keep your clothes clean and off the floor."
Right.
And
Right.
I know this is the practical portion in case anyone's wondering where you're at today.
Yes.
Uh, that's what's happening. But then we jump into friends. I want to make sure we get this. We have about 8 minutes left.
Oh
We
boy.
jump into verse 16. I know in 18:16
Mhm.
you talked about talebearers. You're not to uncover your nakedness, his wife, da da da. Oh, 19, I'm sorry, chapter 19, verse 16, he says, you are not to go up and down as a talebearer among your people. Um, he starts back about not cursing the deaf, not being a stumbling block. It's very important before we go into this. Love your neighbor as yourself, because we all want to jump straight there, but we have to take into context. This isn't like a lottery where we just get to pick out the verse we like.
Mm-mm.
No, this is like, don't be a talebearer. And when it gets down to that, Miriam, it says, you are not to endanger the life of your neighbor.
Mm.
When I talk about you to someone else, I'm endangering your life.
And even if it's
It's
true.
murder. It's
Yes.
murder.
And what the thing is that even we have a tendency that even if it's true, we are still not supposed to do that.
Right, because think about, if I say, okay, I have a friend, we'll call her Sally. You've never met Sally before, Miriam, but I'm like, I have a friend I'm going to bring over, but I just want to tell you before I bring her over, she's been divorced a bunch of times, and she used to be a stripper, and then she used to do this, and I'm giving you like all of her dirty laundry. I'm telling you
Yes.
everything about her, even though it's all true. I have now compromised her life. I have endangered her life with you, because, meaning that when she walks in the door, are you going to give Sally, are you going to see her the same way? Or do you now
No,
have a tainted vision of who Sally is?
you do. And that's because we're human and we're supposed to look at everybody as they have this that nephesh, like you said,
The
that
divine
soul. And
spark.
yes, a divine spark and everything. That's why in Passover it says you're rejoicing when all those people died. Don't rejoice. They were still God's creation when
Hmm.
we did that with the drops and the plagues and all that, all the people that died, and they're rejoicing, yay, they're all dead. You're not to rejoice when your enemy falls. But
No.
I think this is so typical of a lot of times believers is exactly what you said. You want to put, oh, well, this person was this way, but they've changed and whatever. And the only time you are supposed to say, if somebody is going into business and this person has been arrested, has been has stolen, and you're going to go in business, then sometimes you have to s- go to somebody and say, go to that person and work that out
Hmm.
because you don't want them to stumble. But
Right.
it is not our place. Judgment is mine, saith the Lord. And this is like I said, when it's said there, not to curse the deaf, when you're talking about someone, it's they can't hear because they're not there.
Mm.
Or settings about the blind, the way you walk. What are people saying about the way you walk?
Are we being set apart? Are people
Yes,
saying, wow, she looks different? It's very difficult in a conversation when everyone's talking about someone not to jump in.
right.
But what's really difficult, to stand and saying, that may be so, but they're not here to give their side of the story. That may be
Yes.
so, but they're not, maybe we don't see it from their perspective. That might be so, all that's how we stand up. And
A
it
lot of
says,
times they get mad at you because they would say, at work, it was like about
oh, goody,
around
goody.
the water cooler.
Yes.
When I was a teacher and other teachers would all be around and they would be talking away, somebody did this or the way the principal treated or whatever. And when you wouldn't join in,
Oh my goodness.
you
Right.
were you were the black sheep. You were
But
the one.
one thing, and everyone, please forgive me, and I'm putting it all out there to everyone, all the times I've said a word, because I'm really, this is my focus. I'm hyper focused, especially after this week again. He hit me hard. But the thing is this, if I'm talking about Miriam to you, I'll talk about you to someone else. If you'll
Exactly.
eventually it's your turn.
Right.
And that's the truth. So we want to I'm putting a line in the sand and cutting the roots of any of the words I've ever said or anything that's not me going forward. You won't hear it from me. So but it tells you not to bear a grudge against one another, but it says to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And that's how it's translated to most people. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Well, that is not the translation. We're not supposed to bear a grudge. You guys, there's a really great teaching on Aleph Beta about this. I love it so much, and I'll try to post it. But he says it's okay. It says don't have hate in your heart. Can you be mad at someone and we'll say hate? Well, you just can't let it get to your heart where you're putting that face on going, oh, hi, how are you? But you hate them in your heart. You have these bad feelings in your heart. You're to love those. This is the only time this appears in the Old Testament, but it's mentioned 6 times in the New Testaments. And one of those times directly from Yeshua in Matthew 22:36-40. You see it. I have a couple other ones, Galatians 5:14 and Romans 13:9, and you can find the other 3. But it's not as you love yourself, because you don't want me to love you the way I love myself, because I'm still working on loving myself. I have things that I deal with. It's saying that you love others the way you expect to be loved, the way you are loved. It's not about bearing a grudge. It's about when things are awkward, doing the hard thing. You guys will hear me say, being worth the fight. You don't just smile or you just don't talk to them, because what happens if you're doing that? You can't go to worship. You can't without that fellowship offering. Let's go back to those. Remember, it will keep you from face to face with your Creator. He still loves you, but how do you just fully enter into worship when you have when you have that thing, hate in your heart for a friend or for a neighbor or for someone else? You have to leave and go make it right?
Yes.
That's what we need to do. And that's what he's saying here is this can't be something that gets rooted in your heart. You need to go to the person and say, I'm so mad at you right now. I could spit, right? I'm so mad. This is just,
right.
I'm just so angry. And this is why. And right now I'm just mad at you. And I have to be able to say it, but you can't be phony and pretend you like somebody and then talk crap about them behind their back.
No,
that's not,
no.
That is a violation of everything Jesus said and God said here.
Yes.
And do we all do it? Yes. So can
yes.
I just tell everyone, let's all stop it. Let's all look different. Let's all look different. And let's do our talking on our knees, right? And go to the throne and not the phone. So we got
that is very good. Going to the throne and not the phone. That is good, Charlie.
I think I might have got that from Joyce Myers a long time ago.
Wow.
I want to just end. We have a minute. I want to end in chapter 20. It says in 22, it says, now you're to keep all my statutes and all my ordinances and do them, so that the land where I am bringing you to dwell will not vomit you out. You know what? We have to look different. If we get into a ministry or whatever's happening, it could toss us out. You're not to walk in the ways of the nations, which I'm casting you before. Do all the things, therefore, that I abhorred in them. But I have said to you, you will inherit their land, and I will give it to you to possess it, a land flowing with milk and honey. He's preparing them for success. He's preparing you for success. He's telling you to look different, and we have to go. And Miriam, I love you so much.
Oh wow, I love you.
That went so fast.
I know it went so fast. I went wow. But we are talkers, but we love to talk, but we hope you've enjoyed it. It has been a delight to come on here today.
Such a blessing. Everyone be blessed today. Bless. Go through and read this with your heart open.
Yes.
And ask the Holy One to reveal his truth to you in a practical way.
Exactly.
This week.
Yes.
Blessings.
זה שיר פשוט, זה שיר קצר, אולי נשמע טיפה מוזר, אבל תדע, כי זו עובדה, שאלוהים אוהב אותך, והוא רואה, והוא שומע, ואכפת לו מכל דבר קטן. תדע לך, שזו עובדה, שאלוהים אוהב אותך.
זה שיר פשוט, זה שיר קצר.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere